The night I realized my new neighbor wasn't trying to help me, I was standing in my own kitchen with a knife in my hand. The house sat at the end of a cul-de-sac in a town I'd barely visited before the move. On paper, it was perfect. Quiet streets, good schools, low crime. But paper doesn't tell you how a place feels at 2 a.m. when every window is dark and every curtain stays drawn. Moving day came and went without a single neighbor stopping by. No welcome basket, no wave from across the street, just empty driveways and closed garage doors. I told myself people were busy. I told myself I preferred it that way. But by the second night, I stopped believing my own excuses. I woke up to a sound I couldn't place. Not a bang, not a creak, a scrape, then a pause, then another scrape. I rolled over and checked my phone. 2:03 a.m. The sound was coming from outside, somewhere near the front of the house. I pulled back the curtain just enough to see. A man stood in my driveway, dark coat, dark hat. He was shoveling snow, but not like someone trying to be helpful. He moved slowly, almost mechanically. Scrape, lift, toss, pause, repeat. Some kindness arrives like a curse. I watched for 3 minutes. He never looked up at the house, never checked if anyone was watching, just kept shoveling the same section of driveway over and over, even though it was already clean. I decided to go outside and ask what he was doing. I threw on boots and a jacket, unlocked the front door, and stepped onto the porch. The driveway was empty. No man, no shovel, no footprints leading away. Half the driveway was still covered in snow. He'd stopped mid-stroke and vanished. How do you disappear that fast without leaving a single mark in fresh snow? I stood there for 10 minutes in the cold. Nothing moved. Every house on the street was black and silent. I went back inside and didn't sleep. The next night, the same thing. 2:03 a.m. Scrape, pause, scrape. I didn't bother with the window this time. I walked straight downstairs, opened the door, and stepped outside within 30 seconds. He was gone again. But this time, he'd left the shovel behind, leaning against my porch railing like a calling card. By night 4, I started recording from my bedroom window. I wanted proof. I set my phone on the sill and let it run. The next morning, I watched the footage. The man appeared at 2:01 a.m. He shoveled for exactly 14 minutes. Then he stopped, looked directly at my window, and walked off screen. The footage showed him walking toward my front door, but I never heard him knock. What was he doing on my porch while I slept? On night 6, everything changed. I woke up at 2 a.m. but heard nothing. No scraping, no thumping, just silence so deep it felt like the house was holding its breath. I waited. 10 minutes, 20, nothing. Then I heard a sound from downstairs, not outside, inside, a soft footstep on the hardwood floor of my living room. I grabbed my phone and crept to the top of the stairs. The living room was dark except for a sliver of moonlight through the blinds. And there he was, standing in the middle of the room, facing away from me, holding the shovel, motionless. He didn't turn around, didn't acknowledge me at all. He just stood there in the dark, like he was waiting for something, or someone. I backed into my bedroom, locked the door, and dialed 911. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped the phone twice. The operator told me to stay on the line and stay inside the room. I heard the front door open and close downstairs. Then silence. The police arrived 7 minutes later. They searched the entire house, found the back door unlocked, but no sign of forced entry. No man, no shovel, just a single wet footprint in the middle of the living room, rug facing the staircase. The scariest monsters don't run, they wait. The officer filed a report and told me to change my locks. I moved out 3 weeks later, but sometimes when I wake up at 2 a.m. for no reason, I still listen for scraping. Last October, I finally did it. I bought a tiny cabin in the woods, 20 miles from the nearest town. No neighbors, no traffic, no noise except wind and birds. It was supposed to be my escape from everything. The previous owner was a man in his 30s who inherited the place from his parents. He seemed eager to sell, too eager. He priced it low, accepted my offer the same day, and handed over the keys within a week. I should have asked why he wanted out so fast. The first evening, while I was unpacking boxes, a man knocked on my door. He introduced himself as Chandler, said he lived in a cabin about a mile down the main trail, mid-40s, friendly smile, maybe too friendly. He asked if he could see the inside. Just curious, he said. I've lived out here for years and never been in this one. I gave him a quick tour. It's a small cabin, took 3 minutes. But why did he keep looking at the locks on my doors? After the tour, he sat down on my couch and didn't get up. I stood near the door waiting for him to leave. He kept talking about the weather, about the wildlife, about how dangerous the woods could be at night if you didn't know the trails. I finally said, "It's getting late, you should head back." He smiled, apologized, and walked out into the dark trees. I fell asleep on the couch around 10 p.m., woke up maybe 2 hours later. The fire was still burning. Everything was quiet. Then I heard breathing, not wind, not an animal, human breathing, right outside the front door. I pulled the curtain aside to see. A man stood on my porch, face inches from the glass. He was smiling. When he saw me, he didn't flinch. He just raised his hand like he was about to knock. I opened the door a crack. "What are you doing here? It's almost midnight." He laughed. "I was having a campfire at my place. Thought you might want to join." He pointed down the trail. "It's just a mile that way." I looked past him. The trail was completely black. No moonlight reached the ground under those trees. I said no. He didn't move. Instead, he looked past me at the fireplace. "We could just hang out here. Your fire's already going." The friendliest stranger is often the most dangerous. Why would a man walk a mile through pitch-black woods at midnight to invite a stranger to a campfire? I said no again, firmer this time. I closed the curtain and locked the deadbolt. Through the wood, I saw his silhouette stay on the porch for 3 more minutes. Then he walked away. 5 minutes later, a gunshot ripped through the silence. One shot, loud, close, coming from the direction of the trail. My blood went cold. Then Chandler came sprinting out of the trees. He was screaming, "Help me! I've been shot! Please open the door!" He ran past me into the cabin before I could react. He was hunched over, clutching his side. His shirt was pulled up on one side, and I saw it, the silver handle of a revolver tucked into his waistband. No blood, no wound, just a missing bullet from the cylinder. I didn't think. I grabbed my keys, ran to my car, and drove straight to the police station. Behind me, I heard Chandler call my name twice, then nothing. The police found him sitting on my couch, calm, waiting. The gun was loaded except for one spent round. He had no cabin, no address, no real name. He'd been walking the trails for weeks, looking for someone alone. The officer told me later that Chandler had done this before,
Different towns, different cabins. The story was always the same. Friendly neighbor, late-night visit, fake gunshot, and if you let him in, if you believed him, you wouldn't be the one telling the story. Trust is the lock they learned to pick. I never went back to that cabin. I don't know if anyone lives there now, but sometimes I wonder how many people opened the door for him before I did. If you made it this far,
Like and subscribe to Witnessed Horrors for more true horror stories that will make you lock your doors twice. And if you've ever had a neighbor who gave you that feeling, that quiet, crawling, don't turn around feeling, leave it in the comments. You're not alone.